this is Bob. Again, I'm sorry, but we are going to have to call the meeting back to order.
Start over.
You want to start over?
Start over, yes, please. I apologize.
Okay. Okay. Let me get to my notes here. The Board of Certified Advanced Estheticians meeting is convening at 9:17 a.m. on February 22nd, 2023 at the Health Licensing Office in Salem, Oregon, and by telephone conference call. I will now call roll. Christy Knapp, here. Rebecca Covey, here. David Howe.
Here, sorry.
Kimberly Candidate.
Here.
Yvonne Duan. Note for the record that Yvonne Duan is not present. Jamie O'Neill.
Here.
Kimberly Morris.
Here.
Members, when you wish to speak, please state your name. Please state your last name. For the record, board members are asked to not use the chat feature during meetings. For the record, public members calling into the public phone lines are asked to email April Fleming at aprilfleming, F-L-E-M-I-N-G, at oha.state.gov and provide your first and last name. Public and interested parties' feedback may be heard during the public and interested parties' feedback period if indicated on the agenda. Everyone is asked to use appropriate language, manners, and protocols when conducting board business. This meeting is called to order. First item up for action is approval of the agenda. Do I have a motion to approve the agenda?
Rebecca Covey, I move to approve the agenda.
And do I have a second?
Candidate Kimberly, I second the motion.
The agenda has been approved. Next on our agenda is the director's report.
Hi, good morning, everybody. This is Bob Bothwell, the interim director at the Health Licensing Office. First report I'd like to give is the board recruitment. Currently, we have Rebecca Covey, who's in her second full term, which expires 12/31 of 2024. She cannot reappoint. Second, we have Christy Knapp, who's in her first full term. Term expired 12/31 of 2021, and she can reappoint. Kimberly Candidate is in her first full term, which expires 6/30 of 25 and can reappoint. Yvonne Duan is in her first full term and expires 12/31 of 2025, and she can reappoint. Jamie O'Neill is in her first partial term. It expires June 30 of 2025 and can reappoint. Kimberly Morris is in her first full term. It expires 12/31 of 2025 and can reappoint. And currently we have a certified advanced esthetician vacant, a public member vacant, and two public member positions vacant. Okay.
Great.
So next on the director's report, I do not have my report in front of me.
Just Michael. Just Michael.
And
Brandon.
So HLO does have one new employee in our education and qualification division. It's Brandon Chastain. And he's been with us for 22 days. Next is my report with regards to board statistics. We've had since fiscal year 2021, fiscal year 2022, and currently in fiscal year 23, we have issued a total of 2,509 licenses, excuse me.
We have like
That's right. Licenses renewed. On the next slide, the vast majority of them are online. versus paper. So in that same time frame of the fiscal year 21, 22, and 23, 1,127 licenses renewed. Licenses by age and gender, vast majority are identified as female. The licensing trends, back in fiscal year 2021, in Q1 of that fiscal year, we were at 383 licenses, and we currently stand at 513 in Q3 of fiscal year 2023. Next is the American Board of Laser Surgery Examination Statistics. In fiscal year 21, we had a grand total of 127 folks take the test, 112 pass, 15 failing. Fiscal year 2022, 101 passed the test, 19 failed, giving us a total of 120 that took the test. And so far in fiscal year 2023, we've had 54 pass the test, 3 fail, and 57 total have taken the test. Any questions so far? Currently, the board is in good financial shape with any balance this far in fiscal year 2023 of $141,708. As far as pooled expenditures go, their board shares 0.7% total, 4.364% for small board expenditures, and about 0.5%, 0.44 for inspections. Do I have any questions on the statistics report?
This is Rebecca. I was wondering how many active, or how many employed, do we have any figures on how many CAEs are employed currently?
No, we wouldn't have that. We can tell you how many are licensed, and I might not even be able to tell you. I can tell you how many licenses, what the fluctuation was. So in Q2, we had 536 licensees. And currently, as it stands in Q3, we are down to 513.
Okay, so the figure for the 2,509 total licenses issued, that's just from 20 to 23?
21 to 23. Let me find that. And that number may actually be wrong.
Okay,
It's extremely
because
wrong.
I'm just curious to know if we have 513 licenses as of Q3, Q2, 536 licenses, if those are kind of adding to that total of the 2,509.
I'm sorry, can you repeat that real quick for me?
I was just trying to understand if Q3's 513 and Q2's 536 licensees, if those were cumulative and added to that total of the 2,509 licensees issued in that first slide.
She wants to know if the 25 and the 500 equals 3,000 is correct, which it's not.
And that,
The
no,
first-
Sammy's telling me that's not correct.
First slide is wrong.
The first slide is wrong.
Okay. So do we know how many licensees we have total? Is it the 1127?
513.
So it's 513. What is the slide, the second slide where it says total licenses renewed being 1127?
No, that one is probably right, because you're going through several licenses.
So I'm covering 3 fiscal years. So currently in fiscal year 2023, there's only been 325 licenses issued, renewed, sorry.
Renewed.
Yeah.
Okay, so I was just trying to get an idea of how many licensees we actually had out there.
513.
Okay, gotcha. Thank you.
All right. Next on the agenda is the regulatory report. Trampa Shuck is online.
Hello, everyone. This is Trampas. Shuck, interim regulatory manager. I'm just here to kind of go over the regulatory report for you. We have two bienniums currently still showing up on the regulatory report. The 2021 biennium and the 2023 biennium, which is the current biennium that we're in. For 2021, looks like we actually only had 6 complaints come in for that time frame, 2 of which are still open. And then for the current biennium that we're in, we've had 12 complaints come in so far, 10 of which are still open. But again, that's kind of that's a fairly new biennium, so I would expect those numbers to be, more to be open, as a ratio. But we have actually got 12 complaints that have come in during that time frame. So that's a little bit of an increase from last biennium, and this biennium isn't over yet. So, but yeah, that's kind of where we are. We're just working through these complaints and investigations as they come. And, we have a subject matter expert on board that helps us out with our investigations. So we have that, and whenever we have a situation that's not a civil penalty or whatnot, we bring it to you guys to look at. Did anybody have any questions about these reports, or, just general questions about investigations or regulatory?
This is Christy Knapp. I have a question. I'll keep it general, but is there a trend of specific complaints? And this may be something that we discuss in executive session, but is there a common theme, and is there something that we can do to help with our peers in the industry or with consumer safety? Does there tend to be a common theme, or is it all over the board?
Probably the most common thing that stands out in my mind is, and actually it kind of gets reflected on the, you see the complaint types, where it says laser services, licensing concerns, services provided. Although that doesn't actually give us a full picture of what all those things mean. They're pretty general terms, right? I'll tell you, probably a good portion of these are actually people either working outside their scope, like you've got a regular cosmetologist who's working outside of their scope, and doing
Advanced aesthetics.
Potentially advanced aesthetics, under their cause license, or just somebody completely unlicensed that's doing, some kind of a CAE practice. And then you've got, it's probably a smaller category of actual, hey, I was injured by this CAE practitioner, by this person who's actually licensed. Sometimes the unlicensed piece comes along with somebody saying I was injured, or the services weren't adequate, or those kinds of things. So sometimes that can fall into a service provided versus licensing, but in the end, a lot of it comes down to people that are not licensed to do CAE or using devices in a way that are potentially advanced aesthetics. So that's a lot of it is licensing and drawing the lines between cosmetology and advanced aesthetics. So,
Knapp, thank you very much for that answer.
All right. Any more questions for Trampas? Okay, I'm going to move out of the way and let Sammy talk to you all.
Hi, everyone. It's Sammy for the record. I just have a couple of things. Hopefully you've received this first letter in your email box, or you've seen it online, basically canceling the February 29th February 27th, RAC meeting, which is coming up in 5 days. We canceled that. We'll hold the next one in March 27th. And then after March, we'll kind of decide, do we need to meet again before the boards meet in June? I will say this is, so January 30th was our third meeting, if you count the two in 2021. And we didn't get very far. So looking forward to March, I'm hoping we can get farther, and if, seeing where we land, to get you guys at least some definitions to look at to approve, on device for each board. So that's kind of our hope, to keep them moving along. Like I said, we haven't accomplished much in those racks. So part of the reason for canceling is trying to find a better way of managing the meeting, because I'm running out of ideas. So giving me a little more time to kind of strategically plan how that's going to work out. So we don't leave our timeline of the June, where the board will meet in June and then we'll file proposed rules in July. I really want to stick with that because this has been since 2021 that we've been kind of pushing this out for many reasons. But yeah, I don't want to slide away from that timeline. I want to hold us to that. So more to come on that. I did update the schedule that just shows that the February 27th RAC is canceled. And then a legislative update. There is not anything that really applies to this board unless you're all estheticians, so I guess it kind of does. So 2040, House Bill 2048 creates a provisional registration for behavior analysts, interventionists, which is basically just saying that we have to issue a license within 5 days of us receiving all the information to get them a license as a provisional. So that's had one public hearing on February 14th. The next one directs the Board of Cosmetology to adopt rules to allow provisional certificate holders to perform cosmetology in a field of practice under supervision. So this kind of creates, in addition to education from higher education coordinating commissions from school, it would allow for people to use some percentage of their hours in a facility working under supervision. The Board of Cosmetology would determine what that percentage looks like. So it's really kind of up in the air. It has not had a hearing. So we're just waiting on that. House Bill 2209 authorizes persons licensed in tattooing to administer local anesthetic, and it as well has not had a hearing. 2665 directs the health authority to establish temporary staffing agency rates. That also has not had a hearing. 2696 adds an additional board to the health licensing office. It's the sign language interpreter board that has 6 license types and its 7-member board. Becomes operative on January 1. That one has had a hearing on February 6th. And it had like 62 written pieces of testimony and support. So this is, I think, the 3rd time this bill has come up. So I'm not sure if they're going to actually land on it this year, but it looks like the support's there anyway. So we'll see. Senate Bill 412 also adds a program to our office, which is licensing dental laboratories, which is outside of our norm. So we license cosmetology facilities under the Board of Cosmetology, but we don't have a program where we just are licensing a facility. In this case, a laboratory and a laboratory is determined on whether or not dentist refers somebody to the dental lab and the orthodontic device is pushed back to the dentist. So that one has had a hearing on January 26th. And the one that's got the most buzz, Senate Bill 217, this is the second year of this second session this has been heard. And it basically takes the Board of Cosmetology curriculum and moves it back over to the Board of Cosmetology where its natural places and takes it out of the Higher Education Coordinating Commission. As you know, the Board of Advanced, you guys set the curriculum requirements for an esthetician, an advanced esthetician. So it's just moving them back to where it should be. But whenever you make this type of a change, there's lots of things that come up, right? Like, okay, is this gonna affect natural hair care? Is this, can we slide something else in? You know, because the relating to clause is very broad, just says relating to cosmetology. So we, have seen an amendment that would, no, not that one. There was a lot of buzz around natural hair care, so we had to meet, we didn't meet with, but we had to do testimony, just ensuring that natural hair care wouldn't be, involved in that. It wouldn't be touched. So they're kind of their own little thing under the Board of Cosmetology, and their curriculum is not set by the Higher Education Coordinating Commission. So I expect that will move forward, I hope. So we'll just kind of wait and see. That is all that I have, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
I have a question, Christy Knapp. As far as the RAC, as a former Rules Advisory Committee participant, are they meeting, they're meeting over the phone, is that correct?
Yeah. Like
Is
you guys,
that
just
part-
like this.
Is that part of what is, I mean, all these people don't know each other. It's a larger group, I assume. I mean, can't they meet in person so that they can really get work done? Or what's happening with health right now as far as meeting in person?
They can come and meet in person, that's fine. I don't know how the Oregon Health Authority feels about us requiring board members to come and meet. That would be something we'd have to talk to leadership about. So that's kind of up in the air. I will say that even when you were on the rack, we didn't get very far when you were on the rack either. So, and we were meeting in person. So it's, and this actually gives us more of a script, right? Tells us what we must do. We must create a definition for devices for aesthetics and advanced aesthetics, and we're not landing on it at all.
So you're finding it proceeding at a normal rate?
Slower than a normal rate, much slower. But I did provide on the letter canceling February 27th, the recording of the January 30th rack, if you'd like to go back and listen.
Thank you.
They're linked there. Any other questions about legislation or the rules process or any other policy issue that you may have? Okay, hearing none, I'll give it back to Bob.
Sammy, this is Rebecca. Can
Go
I
ahead,
ask a
Rebecca, we can
question?
hear you.
Sorry. So I am kind of wondering, you know, while we're trying to get these rules in place, how does that affect the licensees that are, you know, the CAE licensee and the CE licensee? Like, how does it affect them as we're kind of in the, I guess, in the middle of all this?
Well, as we've sent out in several communications that were basically, if say there's a complaint, then we would utilize the law as it's written to determine if they're working inside or outside of scope, if we're talking about a basic esthetician. And then if it was an advanced esthetician doing, you know, doing Botox, then we would look at it from that perspective. But you know, we've just said, if you want to do it, but understand that we don't know if this will remain, you know, these different services will remain in your scope. And if there is a complaint or harm, you know, there could be, it'll be looked at from a legal standpoint and a complaint standpoint and see if it's in the scope of practice. Because you can determine scope of practice in two different ways. You can determine it in policy, which is where I live, and interpreting the law and then writing rules how the law works, right, to get them moving. Or you can do it in the investigation process where, say, an esthetician is doing IPL, which is clearly in the advanced esthetician's work. No, let's not pick that one. Let's pick microneedling. So not really sure where it's at. We know it's in advanced, but we're not sure if it's in regular estheticians. So if there's a complaint, then we would, do the investigative piece. They also get an interpretation from our AG of what it means and what the scope is. So you can get it in two different ways. We usually try to do it on the policy side rather than the complaint side. But it's just kind of getting us there. We do have two definitions that we drafted, but they couldn't land on whether they liked them, whether they had changes that they wanted to recommend. So we'll just keep plugging along.
So do you think the safest, I guess, course of action would be to go with the last set of rules that we had? Or, I mean, is it just really they have to decipher that for themselves as far as what they think is best?
For regular estheticians, well, the rule
I
is
think-
still in place.
Yeah. Okay.
And so but I mean, there are other factors that came into play, under Senate House Bill 297/2970, right? So it defined what, depth of skin that an esthetician can go to. So we didn't have that before, then we have that now. So there is definitely some things that an esthetician has to factor in, like, does this device go deeper than that? And we do have in the rule for estheticians, kind of the FDA's guidelines for microneedling. But again, that has changed since House Bill 2070 passed in 2021. So there are factors. People can always call me and ask. I usually tell them I don't know because I don't know. I mean, I always have an idea, but lawfully I can't just assume that I'm right. So that's how that works.
How are we doing with getting information out? Because I know that, I'm on the board, and sometimes I can be like, okay, I got to go back and try to figure out where we're at with things. So how are we going about really making sure that, our licensees on both the CE board and the CAE board know where they're at with everything or with changes?
Well, we always send out emails, no matter what, and then we post everything to the web. I would be happy to take suggestions on how to better equip licensees with that information.
Are we still doing we used to do that, or used to do that, almost like a newsletter, right? Are we still
No.
doing anything like a newsletter at all?
We never have done a newsletter.
What was that called? It was like, it was almost like it was like you guys would
Northwest
do a
Stylist?
write-up. Yes.
Northwest Stylist?
Yes. Yes.
They folded.
Okay. Is there some way that we possibly could start doing a newsletter? Just to kind of keep things updated.
But
In
I
real
mean,
time?
here, let's think about this. So if we're already sending it via email, all the information to everybody, and they're not checking it via email, if we do a newsletter and we send it via email, are they going to check that email?
Well, I think are the people that you're sending an email to, they're opted in, correct, to see it?
No, we send to every licensee every time. For anything,
Because-
board meetings, rule stuff, racks, it doesn't matter.
I would think that the licensees that were really interested would opt into like a newsletter, and then, they would be able to, or maybe even post it on, are you guys still doing like a Facebook page or anything like that?
No.
Okay. I'm just trying to think of ways to get it out there more, because I know there does tend to be a little confusion out there sometimes. And, I feel like if there was more ways that we could really keep our licensees updated on things, I feel like that would be a really positive thing. And I know we're in a world of social media now, and we have people tend to get things via social media. So, I mean, we did have a Facebook page though, didn't we? Previously?
Yes.
When did we discontinue that?
I don't know. It was Sylvie's. I have no idea. Sylvie did it and didn't really tell anyone, and so it was went away. I know it had to do with a lot of hoops through public health, but I'm not equipped enough to talk in any kind of knowledgeable way about it. I mean, it's
Is-
something Bob could look into. I don't.
What does the rest of the board feel as far as communication and just getting information out? Besides just, because for now we've got the, the HLO website, right? And and I get emails because I'm on the board, but I don't know how many emails I've received besides board meetings. I don't know if you guys have received other emails before. What's the thoughts out there on that?
So David Howe here. I would suggest maybe an option. Newsletters can be really staff intensive. And I know HLO is got a huge job. Our agency uses what we call informational bulletins. So those are sent out to registrants or licensees about specific rules that impact them or clarification of maybe a confusing rule. So they're very targeted. They go out to everyone. And I think what happens is most people know if you get an informational bulletin from our agency, you're going to want to read it. I think that would be a little less intensive on the staff's part. They could then pick in communication with the board here, maybe what they want to underline or reinforce as being a significant issue.
Sammy, do you think that would be something that we could do that wouldn't be adding more than what, that our board can handle as far as you guys administratively can handle? Because I know I don't want to make that more difficult, but I do feel like sometimes, you have to really research information. And it would be nice if there was maybe something really targeted like this that would clarify as we're going through these rules and as we're making them and as things change, that wasn't going to be too much, for the staff put together.
I guess I have a couple questions. So what would be the targeted information that you'd want sent, like say at this time, to the licensees? I already do. I do, and I've done it several times, just keeping it updated. It's linked on that letter that everybody should have received last week, canceling the February 27th rack. At the bottom of that says background information relevant to aesthetics and advanced aesthetics. I mean, I could change that title to information bulletin, but that kind of summarizes everywhere we've been before 2021, the legislation that tried to pass in 2020. I mean, it gives them a summary of everything and all the links. I don't know if retitling that, but that's what I would have to continue to report, is just how that works, how we're moving forward. It's just basically historical information. So if there was other things that you wanted information bulletins about that you want me to target, then we could consider it.
Christy Knapp here. I recall in the past, because like Rebecca, I in the past have had a hard time coming up with information, which it does seem odd to me. And I know in the past, Sylvie had like a question and answer document. I'm not sure if you know what I'm talking about, but I would say it was more of a bulletin or a Q&A. Like, I wonder, is there a way we can access the bulletin through the website? Like, are the old bulletins posted? And then also, would it be possible to have like commonly asked questions? Because I think that's where we're having a hard time finding the information. Like, logically, we know the information's out there, but for some reason, we're just having a hard time finding some of the information.
I guess my question is, what information you have a hard time finding?
I get asked a million questions from people that are estheticians and advanced estheticians,
Okay.
differentiating the scope of practice
Okay,
And
so,
although I
Sorry.
know what those differences are, I sometimes have a hard time finding them in writing.
you won't find them in writing. You
Okay.
absolutely won't. And that's because the RAC has not finished their job. So we don't know what's in the scope of practice. It might, there could be crossover devices. They've talked about radio frequency and microneedling, but having some, a foot in each camp, based on the depth of skin. We have I could write an information piece all day long, but I don't have an answer. I
Okay.
just don't. The RAC hasn't they haven't approved the definition of device, which is the first thing that the legislature tasked us with, in 2021, and we haven't got there. So, I mean, like I said, and I have a historical, I could call it an information bulletin that kind of walks everybody through. This is what we did prior to 2020. This is what we did in the short session that didn't pass. But then we did a stay on enforcement, I can't remember exactly what it was. Stay on enforcement through 2021 because we thought the legislation would pass and it did. Then I did another one telling you what 2021, 2070 did. So there's already that information out there, but I am happy to try to provide that in a different way but you're not finding a scope of practice Q&A because there isn't.
Okay.
Sammy?
So it's not there. Got it.
No, it does not exist.
So maybe,
But it
David
exists
here,
is
maybe,
is your laws.
so David here, maybe the answer is in flux, and there is not a scope of practice defined yet until the Rule Advisory Committee completes its mission. And maybe, I don't know, from Chrissy or Rebecca's standpoint, if the folks you're relating to, is it just that there's confusion about the fact that is there a scope between the two? And maybe just communicating the fact that it's in process, it's in limbo.
Right, and
Would
we've
that
done
be
that.
Would that be helpful to people to know that if it hasn't already been communicated?
So there is a scope, right? There is definition of esthetician and there's a definition of advanced esthetician in the ORSs, in the Oregon Revised Statutes. But they're bigger parameters, right? They say skin, and then now for estheticians, they've said hair removal and eyebrow services. And so those are all in scope. And then they've also listed microcurrent, galvanic current, LED. So there's other specific devices that we know are in scope. But then there's this other broader factor that, and other devices that don't go beyond the epidermis unless it's a natural physiological effect. And that's the one where we don't know, right? That's all the other devices besides microneedling, microcurrent, high frequency, and microdermabrasion, LED light. So we know a little bit, but everybody wants to know about all these other things that we don't know. I don't know. So there is a scope in law, but there's a broader piece that we don't know that collaboratively the legislature says they want the boards to determine. And that's also in the law.
So is there value in communicating just what you said, Sammy?
I have
Asking that back to
communicated.
Chrissy and Rebecca. Is there value in what Sammy just shared in having that be distributed to all of the licensees?
Nap here.
Or not?
I think
Go
that
ahead.
we hold that until there's something more to say.
You broke up.
Can you please
Rebecca.
repeat? You were broken.
Oh, I said, I think we hold loosely the general rules until there's more to share.
So this is
Okay.
Bob. When the rules are in place, they'll be posted to the website and practitioners will be notified.
I mean, did everybody get the letter saying that everything was canceled for the 27th? And then the list of links to the recording for the RAC, and then the background information relevant that dates clear back to 2019. Did you guys get this email?
Yes.
I see a public member shaking their head.
Yes.
So you are receiving information, which that bottom link is like a 5 or 6 page document. Obviously,
So
don't want
Sammy,
to attach
who was the audience for that? Was it purely board members, or did it go to everyone?
It went to every esthetician and every advanced esthetician and every cosmetology facility. And every interested party. outside of those? I mean,
This
what
is
if,
Rebecca.
here's
Go
a what
ahead.
if, what if I have, say, Rebecca and, Christie review the document? And you guys can tell me how to make it better.
This is Rebecca. So partially my question was because I don't know what's being sent to me as just a board member or what's being sent to everybody.
Everything's being
So-
sent to everybody.
Okay.
The materials, notice, rules, BRAC notices, memorandums like this one I just sent out Friday. Everything goes to everybody because it's public record, right? So we have to send it out.
I mean, I think it's great to have that in an email where they can find that. And the only other thing I could think of, because you do a great job, Sammy. You work really hard, so we appreciate you. But the only other thing I can think of is if these like a record of these different things that you sent out could be kept somewhere archived on the website where somebody could just go in there quickly, you know, in case their emails are just kind of deleting themselves or whatnot after a certain time period, and they could go back and research all the work you put into all these emails. Like there could be a little archive of them.
If you click
On
on the
the-
bottom link in the letter I sent Friday, it's all there on the web. All of it, all the background.
Okay. Okay, excellent. Well, then that sounds like there's a place to find the information then.
I mean,
Thank you
I'm
for-
happy
Thank
to
you for
have
clarifying that.
someone review what we've sent out. Maybe I'm sure it's confusing. I'm sure it's confusing to read. Maybe there's a better way of saying some of the stuff, and I'd be happy to get feedback. I could send out something saying, hey, all the information that you need to know is gonna be located here, so check back whenever you want. Maybe that would be helpful.
I think that's a great idea, actually, because then it just provides some clarification like, hey, if you guys have questions, this is where you can find all those, you know, emails I sent out.
Okay, I could do that.
Thanks, Sammy.
You're welcome. And if somebody, Christie, and if you guys want to review that, I'm happy to send it to you.
I would love
Maybe
to
you don't want to
review
make any
Sammy.
changes, but it's up to you.
I think there may be just less information at this point in time than I realized. And so I'm satisfied with the answer, and I do see, looking at the site, that a lot of this is accessible through the Health Licensing Office website. So I think the question for me was answered satisfactorily.
Okay. Yeah, that'll be real easy to send out. Like a short, like here's where you can locate everything. Anything new is gonna be on the blog, which is always on the homepage on the right-hand navigation. And then if it's board specific, like if you were to click on Advanced Aesthetics, the first thing is the blog. So it'll say, it says right now, it says cancellation of the meeting. And then the next, if you click the arrow, it says, okay, board meeting on next date. So I just kind of pointing them to that spot. I'm happy to do that.
Thanks, Sammy. I think that would be awesome.
No problem. I'm glad we got to a resolution.
Okay. If there's no more questions, Madam Chair, members of the board, it's public interested parties feedback time.
All right, at this time, the Board of Certified Advanced Estheticians will hear public and interested parties' feedback. Members of the public, please wait until you've been recognized. Once recognized, please state your name and affiliation to the board for the record.
Okay, Madam Chair and members of the board, we have Amy Stewart is here sitting with us today, and she does have comment. If you can speak a little louder, because,
Sorry.
oh, okay.
Quite sufficiently. So some answers were already, some questions were answered by Sammy already, so
Very good.
thank you.
It's a testament to how good this board is doing. People have questions and we answer the questions before we get to them. Let me see if there's anybody on the phone. Hi, on the phone, this is Bob. Is there anybody there that would like to make a comment? I'm sorry, I didn't hear you. On the phone?
I have no comment.
Okay.
And rest assured, guys, I am getting lots of phone calls and lots of emails. So somebody's got my number. Asking me questions. People are hopefully getting their answer. But I think there's a better way, easier way to navigate them through all the information.
Person on the phone. Sammy, is there a way that the board would be able to discern an email that's intended for only board members versus the general public? That sounded like it was part of a little bit of the confusion.
Yeah, so I believe that board members will get multiple emails. So they'll get the one that says with the banner, Oregon Health Authority, the Gov Delivery, and they'll also get one from April.
Okay.
So specifically to them. So they would be getting duplicate information, basically. That's how they would know.
So that is specific for them.
Yeah. But again, we don't do that. What to get attendance? Are you gonna be available? So we don't send that out to everybody.
Right.
So it's limited on what.
Yeah.
On what we send out to just board members.
Okay.
Sammy, what is who is it coming from when it's when you're sending out to everybody? Not just is it the Oregon Health Authority that it's coming from, or is it you mentioned something else, or just
I'll have to look,
going to be
but I
from
could-
you?
I'll have to look and see. I can't remember. I think it says, does it say licensing office?
Yeah.
Sure.
No.
Not sure either.
It has both, I think. It's,
Let me look into it.
Yeah.
Because that's a good point. If it doesn't say health licensing office, maybe people aren't looking. Because that is
Or
only
maybe it's
getting
getting-
sent through Gov Delivery.
Maybe it's getting spammed or something, because I know when I look my stuff up, if I just look under your email address, Sammy Patnody, I mean, I have something this morning, I have something January 27th, and I have something back in December. And so, and they come from Oregon Health Licensing, it looks like here. Of course, for the board business, I get it from April. So I'm just trying to see if it's some, where they're all coming from when it's just board business versus what everybody's getting.
If you're getting a direct email from me or April, it's only to the board.
Okay. And
Everything else
is gonna,
everyone gets.
everything
Sorry,
else is going to say Oregon Health Authority on it.
That one everyone gets.
Okay, gotcha.
I would say maybe there's a way to tell them to look in their spam, but if they don't get the email saying to look in their spam, they're not gonna know. So that won't work.
But you said you sent out something from the Oregon Health Authority. You said Friday.
Yes, the subject would have been cancellation of February 27th Rules Advisory Committee.
Okay. Because I didn't get that. So that's why I was trying to look through that. I'll do a little deeper dive here, but yeah, I think if we just get that one email out saying, hey, this is where you can find the information, I think that will help.
Okay. I'll look into why you didn't get it. Maybe we have a wrong email or something. I'll check it out.
I always have your phone number too, Sammy.
True.
Is there more public and interested parties feedback?
Chair, no, there is not.
Okay, shall we move on to the executive session?
There is no executive session.
Okay, so do you want to move on to the items for board action?
There's no executive session. I'm not sure what you're looking at. So the next on the list would be other board business.
Okay. This is Christine Knapp, and I have a question that I would like to, I have two questions actually in regards to other board business. I really want to dig in and I want to know, like, when people don't attend this meeting, we only get to meet a few times a year. So if we, for example, meet for 2 hours, 4 times a year, we only have 8 hours of work that we're committing to this cause. And when people don't show up, it can stall I just feel that the commitment is not there. And I want to know, and by the way, as far as one of the members that didn't show up today, I don't know that member. It's absolutely nothing personal. But I want people on this board that are reliable. We plan this months in advance. And what can we do? I want to be able to, I guess I really would like to be able to remove someone if they aren't reliable. And I think not calling in, if we hadn't have added Kimberly Morris, then we couldn't have met today. And so I think those are some of the things that I would like to know what the appropriate way for us to handle that. I also would like to know, as a group, if we could commit to maybe getting some more applications on, or if you guys could tell us, are there more applications, so that we can actually have a broader scope of people that can help. And then thirdly, and possibly most important, is what do we want to accomplish? I think we started this journey so that we could help people, we could have the industry navigate, we can keep people. I feel that even though the legislation is, we're waiting for some of this to come through, I think we still have real life issues happening. And I would like to know what people would like to accomplish, because we're all super busy people and we want to help facilitate that. And I think setting some goals and making sure that the people on this board are committed to this board and either showing up, or I think that that's really important to us being helpful.
Okay. Sammy can answer some of those questions for you.
So unfortunately, anything board member related is the governor's office. So they appoint, make all the decisions. We do work with them. Derek works pretty closely with them. So if we see a pattern of people not attending, we'll definitely let them know that is happening. But they do give them a lot of grace. I don't know how much grace they give them now that we're doing most things online, but it's completely out of our hands. I mean, we just give them information and feedback, but they do whatever they want. So, but we do coordinate with them, let them know if people aren't attending, and if it's repetitive. The other thing is, we're always happy to take applications on file their workday. In fact, I think there may have been an email sent yesterday. I'm not sure it was for your board, but I just got a list. So yes, you'll be getting, if you haven't already, getting an email in your inbox asking for board membership, and it'll go out to all licensees asking them to apply, people to apply. So we do that like at least once every 6 months, if not more, especially with your board, because you guys have been lacking in board members. We've done it several times. And then we have a couple other avenues that we're going to start using, like press releases, that kind of stuff, to try to reach a broader audience, working with the hospitals and for other, not necessarily this board, but other ones. What else? So, I mean, we're working on different things, and I'm pretty sure just got the list of all my openings on my boards. So me and Derek are working together to get a letter out. If he didn't already send something, I have to check. And then, yeah, if there's things that you guys want to accomplish, then let us know, and I'll let you know if we can, what we would need to start the process with whatever you want to try to accomplish, where you want to start.
Christine out here. I think I would really love to hear from Kimberly Kennedy, Kimberly Morris, Jamie O'Neill, and And Rebecca, if there's something, on your list, I just feel like we discuss kind of where things are at, but I would like to hear from some of the representatives if they have any concerns and what they aspire to hope to accomplish.
Chair, this is Bob. David Howe had his hand up for a bit. David, did you have something to contribute?
Yeah, are you hearing me?
Yes, go ahead, David.
Okay, thank you. I was just gonna ask a couple of questions for clarification. When someone, or how you post for an open board position, what goes in the announcement, its description of the board responsibilities and the expectations of the member, how is that communicated so that a person then applies an application? I assume it goes straight into the governor's office, or if it doesn't, what's the interplay between HLO staff and that candidate or membership on a board? How does that work?
Maybe Derek, who handles all that. Derek, are you on the line?
Still workday, right?
Yeah,
Why we
yeah.
can see
We can have
them.
him. Hi, Derek. Good morning.
Hi. So the way that it's been working is we have a letter, and in that letter, it outlines the positions that are vacant, what the board consists of as far as board members, what to expect being on the board, and then the general application process. And that letter gets sent out to all licensees and all people on our interested parties list. And that letter did get sent out yesterday. And then we were also working on a separate letter to recruit for the public member positions. And if you guys would like, I can send you guys a copy of that letter so you see what we're sending out.
So once that letter goes out, what's the process of a person being solidified to be a board member out of the governor's office?
So the way that it works is they start the application process through Workday. They complete that application process and they're considered a possible candidate. So the final decision is made by the Governor's Office of Executive Appointments, and the way that they base their decision on is certain responses that are included in the questionnaire provided by the candidate. So they're looking for people with certain experience, people with certain perspectives that's currently not on the board.
Okay, so in terms of specific questions about commitment and time commitment, how is that addressed in the recruitment process? So they know X number of board meetings a year, got a total of X number of members, quorum is X number, that, business can't be completed without a quorum. So your, involvement is very, very important. I mean, how is that reinforced?
So in the letter that we send out, we lay out the time commitment. So typically 2 to 3 meetings a year with X number of hours for each board meeting. We don't emphasize the quorum aspect of things, but that's something that we can start including.
The reason I bring that up is Christie's concern of, that level of commitment. That basically, if you don't have highly engaged board members, you're held sabotaged. You're sabotaged by the non-participant. Sabotaged in the sense that you cannot conduct business. So it becomes really, really important. And then, ultimately, it's a personal relationship in my thinking. It's between, individual board members, the staff, appreciation back and forth, the value of the work that's being done, and the high need for people to attend the meetings. I'm off my soapbox. Thank you.
We hear you, David. Thank you. We do, and I hopefully the board knows that we do appreciate everybody that does attend the meetings. We also understand that life does happen for folks that are on the board, and we have folks that resign from the board because of them being unable to commit. We're always searching for public candidates for board positions, whether it's a rules advisory committee or the boards themselves. Everybody I talk to that has questions, concerns, wants to do things differently, I always recommend that they get a hold of Derek and get on the board. So it is a process, and it's a lengthy process to have somebody want, then apply, and then get to the governor's office, and then if they're a Senate confirmed board, to get them in front of the Senate. So it does take time. Everything does take time, and Sammy did mention that we I fell off my soapbox. Huh?
Press release?
No. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of avenues we can take to get board members interested,
Yeah.
and she just said
Anything.
we've done press releases for rules advisory committees.
Permanent rules now. Pretty much do it for everything except meetings. We do it for my racks, but not board meetings. I don't think.
Are you all catching that?
Yes. Is Christy still there?
Christy? Let's see.
There is somebody waiting in the lobby.
I did just want to say, I just want to thank David, because David's been on this board for a long time, and I don't think he's ever missed a meeting unless he had somebody replace him in the very beginning. So we do really appreciate, I think, the board members that take this seriously. And, you know, we all have busy schedules. So I feel like, you know, taking time away from that and knowing that, you know, we're going to have a board meeting on a certain day and making sure we attend that, make it a priority above and beyond our other things that we have to do in life. One thing I think would be helpful would be perhaps in the board meetings, if we kind of have an idea of like, okay, this board meeting could be like, you know, from 9 to 1 or 9 to 3, maybe that would help people be able to plan their day a little bit more accordingly. And we don't see people popping off like, you know, an hour after we get on to the board meeting because they have, you know, appointments. I don't know if that's something we can do or not.
Say that again?
I missed what she said.
So in a nutshell, she's asked about posting the time frame on the agenda from 9 a.m. to 1 p.m.
I've started doing that with the racks.
Yeah. So sometimes it's difficult to do that, and
Other board offices,
yeah.
but they don't have board meetings here mostly, so.
Okay. So yeah, we can certainly we can do that to give them some sort of perspective of how long any particular board meeting will last. Sometimes they are intended, it looks like they're going to last an hour and go into a few hours. But that's a good suggestion, and we can work on that, getting it on the agenda. Chair.
I think that would be helpful,
Okay.
just because, you know, I usually clear my entire day because I just never know. In the beginning, we used to have really long board meetings, but lately they've been quite a bit shorter. So I think the newer members may not know what to expect.
Okay. I mean, that's Derek has his hand up. I think he's going to say something about that. Derek?
Yeah, I just want to add one quick thing. So there are statutes in place that kind of outline the makeup of the board. And there are some boards that have a specific guideline as far as members who don't attend and as how to handle that. This particular board does not. So what I can do is I can reach out to the new administration at the governor's office and get some guidance from them. So for example, if we have one board member that's no-showed 3 times, you know, how are we going to move on from there? So I can get some guidance from them and then reach out to Sammy and let you guys know.
This is Rebecca. I think that'd be a great idea. And I do really appreciate the flexibility that the conference calls offer, you know, being able to be more virtual, especially being in an outer market. I think that will help us as well. If that continues to be the case, it'll help us be able to get good people on the board. And I am really appreciative of the new members that have joined. So thank you. It's great to have people that are really interested in this field, helping us make it a better practice or a better board for the CAEs. And so we really appreciate your input in this board. As you guys know, some of us, like myself, will be aging out of it here. So we really want somebody that's very invested in this to keep this going.
Sure. Chair, members of the board, this is Bob. Since we've been doing the board meetings online, we've had to cancel less. We've had less canceled board meetings. So that's kind of worked to our benefit, as was just mentioned, that folks that are in outer lying areas that may have to travel an hour or more to come to Salem for a board meeting, this is being able to do this online has really helped. And I do see David's hand up again.
Thanks, Bob. Yeah, David here. Just a couple things. Running board meetings, committees, whatever, commissions, I mean, there's an art to it. And as Bob referenced, you do your best to gauge how long you think a meeting's going to go. And sometimes you just get blown out of the water. As far as meeting management, and I don't know if you have the ability to do this, but if you're not tied to a specific order of your agenda and you have items that require board vote, what we've done for our agency is try to group those all together, maybe put them toward the beginning of the meeting so that you then strive to have a quorum and you can actually do official business. Because a lot of board conversation is just that. It's very, very important to have it, but it doesn't necessarily mean, unless there's some type of legal requirement, maybe Derek can tell us. But I would assume if you're not taking a formal vote and you're conversing about topics and it's still a public meeting, if you don't have a full quorum, I assume you can still talk about things, or am I missing the boat on that?
No. Cannot. This is Bob. If there's not quorum, there is no board meeting.
And
Okay,
to caution everybody with times is, once we're in a public meeting where notice is required, recording is required, minutes are required, all of that, then if I would have never expected this meeting would last an hour and a half. I would have slated it for at the most 45 minutes. But if we say we projected it for 3 hours and you guys were done in an hour, well, technically we still have to remain online because we told the public comment we're gonna end at 3, and that's when public comment would take place. So there is definitely a cautionary situation when you start putting timeframes around people, and then you also box yourself in, right? So if we would have said, this is only a 30-minute meeting and you guys have talked for an hour and a half, then the board, it wouldn't have helped the public, because you see what I'm saying? So then you kind of almost like a false hope sometimes, and then give them too much hope, and then they just don't know and they wait, and then you guys are already done. Does that make sense?
It does. It's a true art. I mean,
Yeah.
We can always approximate, and we do it with a couple boards, especially ones that have a lot of executive session. We can always give them an estimate, but yeah, it really is an art. So it's our best guess, right? It's what we anticipate, what we talked about, and can we put a time around that?
Chair, members of the board, Christy Candidate had her hand up. Christy, did you have something to add? Or Kimberly, I'm sorry.
Yes, Kimberly Candidate. I was just going to comment on being a newer member. I do appreciate the fact that we can join via teleconference. That does help, being far away. I have noticed some of the things that I've mentioned, the frustration with not making quorum. I see patients blocking his schedule is financially a commitment. And when that doesn't happen, obviously that's not to the benefit of wanting to be on a board. So I agree that if we can get commitment, that is, and I personally probably wouldn't commit to more than a 4-hour window. I don't know if that's something that we should mention. when I joined the board, I don't know that that was made clear that an 8-hour commitment was what was expected. So I think, yeah, getting things clear for new members on how much time they should expect to commit, and then as best we can, staying to the dates that we block off, that is greatly appreciated. But thanks to all.
And NHLO, again, really appreciates everybody taking time out of their day to attend the meetings, and we try to make them as productive as possible and to get through them within a reasonable amount of time. And since there is apparently an expected time commitment posted out there, we don't very often exceed 4 hours with any of our boards. Sometimes we're lucky to go extend beyond an hour with some of them. And on the other hand, with this board, we do have, several members, all of you here today, that are very committed. We have quorum. Some boards, we barely have quorum, meaning if somebody were to have to leave after 1 hour for some.
What's happening to them before they got the new members?
Yes. Yeah, as you know, right? So somebody would have to leave within an hour, what's the point of even having the board meeting? But everybody, we totally hear what you're saying, and it's important to us to be able to have the board meetings and make them as productive as possible. And we do try very hard to get folks signed up to be board members, whether they're professionals or public members. Okay, I'm off my soapbox.
Yeah, and I think anything over 4 hours is unproductive.
Yeah.
I've started setting my racks up, and they're working the entire 4 hours on trying to get somewhere. And I started making a time limit. And a lot of racks, like birthing center rack, 2 hours. They don't go any farther than 2 hours. So there are some that are very strict. But I think anything over 4 hours becomes unproductive once you get past lunch hour.
So Sammy, do you think that we could just then as board members just count on the fact that our board meetings will never go over 4 hours, and so we could block our schedule perhaps for 4 hours, and then we know that if it's we know that there's a chance it could go over an hour, 2 hours, but it's never going to go past 4.
I mean, you can always do that, but here's the kicker, right?
Yeah.
You have a case, an egregious case that's litigious, right? And you're going over this case, and and this has happened in other boards where it takes hours and hours. You could choose to keep it at 4 and then schedule to continue the conversation at a different meeting. So that's always possible. You can limit it. And then just be aware that there may be instances where we got to schedule an additional meeting to finish.
That sounds reasonable to me.
Yeah, and I mean, any board member at any time can email Sammy or myself, and if you have a concern for the date or the amount of time at any particular board meeting, we can guess for you, estimate. But again, if we box ourselves in with an hour or 4 hours, and if we put it on the agenda for 4 hours, we've got to remain for 4 hours, and then that's not productive, right? If we get done with business in an hour.
Agreed.
Yeah, so we can always guesstimate for you. How accurate it's going to be is in the air. But and like she said, if we have things that are just running on and on and on, and we're not making any headway on any project or anything, we can always stop the meeting, and we can ask the board for direction, and we can pull things together and then have a productive board meeting sometime in the future.
Christy Knapp here. That sounds good. Is there anything else anybody wants to bring to attention before we adjourn the meeting?
This is Rebecca. I think the only thing that, answering your question earlier, things that, I think is important that we work on as a board is just helping to get these rules done. And I know it just sounds like, that's some hoops we have to jump through with, RAC to make sure we're really, doing all the things we need to be doing. So if Sammy or anybody can think of things that we can do to help out, to help facilitate those processes, I mean, I think we're all more than happy to help. And otherwise, I'm excited to hopefully be able to, help create these rules as soon as possible, right? And do we have an idea of when that might be, Sammy? I know you said things are going a little bit slow.
So the RAC will meet on March 27th, and then we'll decide if they need another meeting, and let's say that they do. And then the boards will meet together, the Cosmetology and Advanced Aesthetics Board on June 13th, and potentially 12th, and potentially 13th, in case that becomes a longer, more than 4 hours on the 12th. I've scheduled 2 days to roll over to the next day. So you would approve proposed rules collaboratively. I have no idea what that's going to look like. So that's going to be interesting to have 9 up to 20 people on a phone call trying to collaboratively decide what rules are going to look like for 2 different statutory professions. So more to come on there. And then you'll have to, so I'll file proposed rules October 1st. We'd have comment from October 1st to 28th. I would have a hearing on August 16th for both Advanced Aesthetics and Regular Aesthetics. And then on October 23rd and 24th, the boards would meet again and determine permanent rules based on all the comments received and the hearings officer's report. And then hopefully January 1, we'd have rules in effect. That's my plan.
Excellent. Well, it sounds at least by 2024, we'll have some rules then, hopefully.
Hopefully, cross our fingers.
Anyone else have any comments or? All right. The Board of Certified Advanced Estheticians meeting is adjourned at 10:34 a.m.
Awesome. Thank you, everybody.